At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only i3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services, and a big shout-out to subscribers of the podcast. As always, thank you all very, very much. It is November 6th, 2024, and the months are already going by very, very quickly, usually because of the holidays and everything, but I'm excited for this episode. I am currently out in Georgia, and I'm staying at this pretty cool Airbnb in Marietta. I'm just down the road from Cobb County 911. I'm out here teaching and also recording episodes, and I'm here with my first guest today. And my guest this morning is Jazmine, and she's a systems analyst at Cobb County 911, again, here out of Georgia. How's it going?
It's going well.
All right, awesome. This is good. So I'm excited to have you on just to learn more about you and how everything works around here. So we were talking earlier before we started recording and stuff, and you had mentioned that you've been in public safety basically for about 5 years now, right?
Correct.
All right. And you started in dispatch?
Yeah, so technically I actually started on the PD side.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. How did you get into public safety to begin with?
So I went to college and I graduated with a bachelor's degree in science, and I wanted to be some type of lab, whatever, analyst. Yeah. So I ended up doing that for a year, and I don't know, it was just something was like, I want to serve in a different manner. And police came up in my mind. I went out, tried out. I went through the process. I got hurt.
Oh, no.
So I had to start all back over. And then I realized, I don't know if I really want to be this in front of the thing. Like, right, yeah. I don't know how to say it, but so I, let my sergeant know at the time, and he was like, "Oh, but you're great. I don't want to lose you." And a couple of months later, I get a call from 911 saying, "Hey, we heard about you. You want to come in?" And I'm like, "Sure." I have never even thought about this. Yeah. And 5 years later, here I am. Being a dispatcher was amazing. Mm-hmm. It was definitely not what I expected, but I loved it.
See, I love that, because a lot of times with the people that I have that I've had on, that I've interviewed, spoken to in the past, they have said that they've gone for other things that had nothing to do with public safety. Right. And then there's that sense of wanting to do something or be a part of something bigger than themselves. Correct. So you go for PD first. If you don't mind me asking, was it like in the beginning, like in training or something? You said you got hurt. So
yeah, so here is 6 months. Mm-hmm. So I was like 2 months in and I got hurt. And then the next time I was probably about the same, about 2 months in. Yeah. And as we were going through the, things, and they were trying to like train your mind to see to know what you're going to see. Right. I think that's when I realized I don't want to necessarily see it. but I do want to help.
Right. Yes,
so
exactly.
I think that's where the transition of like, I need something else.
Well, so and also the reason I ask as well is because sometimes I like to kind of compare different experiences and such. So when I was in dispatch, when I first started out in actually the state of Florida is where I first started out dispatching, the records clerk, her name was Candy. Her husband was like this kind of a big shot Florida highway patrolman. And he goes, Ricardo, I could probably help you get in. You got to go through, there's, the academy and, there's going to be all these different things. And I said, okay, well, what's like the testing process and stuff? And he goes, you've got to do like the physical test and there's this whole obstacle course. And I thought, okay, well, I'll go try it. So here's the thing. Here's what happened. I'm out there with about 20 people and I'm watching as everyone is doing this. And I thought, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, man. Like I was training beforehand, just kind of like running and stuff, doing some weight training, but nothing like it ended up being. So at one point there's I think it's a 110-pound dummy that you have to pull. And I was watching everyone, how they were pulling, and I was like, okay, I think I got it. So I'm going through the whole thing, and there's other stuff that you got to jump over, climb over, all this other crap. I get to the dummy and I start pulling the way everyone's pulling, and I hear people yelling, "Go, Martinez, go!" I'm like, I'm trying, man. And I got to a point where I don't know if I hit like a divot or what was in the grass, but it made me turn. So when I turned, I went to pull again, and I don't know how I did it, but I got an enormous cramp in my right thigh. And I went down, and when I went down and I slipped back and fell, my shoe flew up in the air, and I'm in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, everyone is laughing at me right now, but they were actually cheering. They're like, get up, go. And like the drill sergeants that were there, they're like, get up now. And I'm like, okay.
That's
and
awesome.
I'm pulling, I made it all the way through. I still had about a minute and a half left, which I was surprised after what happened. So I'm limping back to my car, and the drill sergeant walks up because I had forgotten my shoe. I still had left it over there. I wasn't even thinking about it. I was still like in my head. The drill sergeant comes up and he says, "Martinez, here's your shoe." He goes, "You got a lot of heart." He goes, "You're exactly what we want around here. However, you need to eat more bananas. You need some more potassium in your life." so that you don't cramp up like that. I was like, "Thank you, sir." Yeah, I went through the testing and everything, but it just, it turned out that it really wasn't kind of what I wanted to do. There was just something with dispatch that really got into my blood, and I'm glad that I did, because it leads me here today.
Right.
Yeah, so you end up going through your process and all. You end up coming into dispatch. Before you came into dispatch, did you get a chance to do like a sit-along at all, just to kind of see what it was like, or did they just kind of throw you in?
So when I started, our class wasn't full yet. So I did have I think about 2 months of just watching, observing, what do they call it? And I was like, okay, yeah, I think I can do this.
All right. Was there at any point when you walked in, so just so that for those who are listening right now, when you walked in, what did you see? Like, was it like all monitors? Did you see people just like doing their thing and stuff? And did you ever have a moment where you thought, this looks kind of crazy? Like, there's monitors everywhere. What was it like for you? Yeah,
I will say the monitors definitely was like a shock for me.
Yeah.
Because I think, like, of course, we can only compare it to movies, and you see, like,
of course,
you see it, but you don't. It's not that. So in reality, so the monitors was a lot, but I don't know. I guess I've just always been a multitasker, so it didn't intimidate me necessarily. I just felt if the training was correct, then I would be all right. That's kind of how I felt. Now, once I started, that was a different story, but
yeah. So you go through that. You've had the chance to observe. Did you get a chance to listen to any calls at the same time?
Yeah. So we
okay.
Yeah, we get hooked up to people. We hear everything they hear. We see what they do. Like, so you get kind of the full effect without actually doing like the typing and the talking. But so yeah.
See, okay, so that's what I love as well, because when I first got into dispatch, I didn't get to do a sit-along or anything. I, too, only had movies, TV shows, or whatever as my example of whatever 911 is. And when I went in for my first shift, which after I applied, it took about 2 months, and then the chief shows up to my house. Oh, yeah, it was a small city. It was a small city, and he showed up to my house, and he asked if I still wanted the job, and I said yes. And, I thought I was going to start like the following week.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
he goes, you start tonight. And I said, oh, okay, awesome. But so here was my thing. So mine was really thrown into the lion's den because I end up going in, I meet my trainer, I watch him take a 911 call. And then I literally applauded him afterwards because I've never been on that side before. I'm
Right.
like fascinated. And I said, good job. And he goes, great. He goes, you're next. And I said, no, like, are you for real? And he goes, no, you're next. And I said, there's no other training, man. Like, there's
Right.
nothing else.
Wow.
And he goes, the only way you're going to really get into this is by learning on the job. He goes, there's 3 things that you need to do this job. One is thick skin. One is common sense. And then he's like, most importantly, you have to be human. I thought, wow. I was like, okay.
That's good.
And it was a heck of a ride
Yeah.
from that time on. So how long did the training last for you? Like, how's the process work?
I'm gonna be honest, I do not remember.
I
do remember.
It was a whirlwind.
Yeah. I remember, like I said, I was observing for 2 months, which is a long time to sit back and watch someone do it. And then, of course, we have phone training first, and then we go through that, and then we have radio training. So it's kind of broken up. So you kind of get your feet wet in each one before you just take on everything.
Yeah.
I think when I started, it was like a year.
Really?
In totality, it was about a year of training. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, and it's a huge area, right, as well. And there's stuff that's going on all the time.
For sure.
How many people are on the floor at a time? Just like a ballpark.
20, 25.
See, and that's crazy for me because when I first started dispatching, it was me for 8 hours. And it was just me. So when it went to hell, like it really went to hell. And I'm like sitting there freaking out,
Right.
But then when I moved back to Southwest Michigan and finished off my dispatch career in the county that I actually grew up in, now it's a central dispatch, but there's 3 of us minimum on. So to hear like 20,
Yeah.
and then in North Carolina, I think they have about 36 people that they have. And that's even more crazy.
Right.
But so you've got all of those, you're learning how to work with, a team and all, right? And you have it broken up, like you said, phones, radios, all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you do all disciplines of public safety, right? Just police,
Correct.
fire, and EMS?
Yes.
Okay, so.
Well, we don't necessarily dispatch EMS. They do have their own dispatchers.
Oh, okay.
Of course, they come across our channels and stuff like that.
Gotcha, okay. But so then when you're working on this and you're training through it, I guess what would you say was your most favorite? Was it call taking? Was it being on the radios?
Radios, for sure.
Yeah, radios?
Yes, radios for sure. I love fire over PD.
Mm-hmm.
No hard feelings though.
Right.
They're just a little nicer. No.
Yeah.
But dispatching for sure. And which is kind of crazy because it's like I wanted to serve, but I realized there was a disconnect between call takers and the callers. And it's like, I'm glad that like I see now we're trying to help society to understand what it means when you call 911. Like, what are we expecting of, like, what are we going to ask you and stuff like that? I think that is very important because I think that's some of our burnout is we go through the same thing because they're expecting certain things from us that we cannot give or,
Very true.
So it was kind of frustrating for me.
But you're right, though. It is important because, as you were saying, just like the both of us, we kind of had just that perception of what 911 is because of TV or movies or whatever. Yeah. So when people are calling in, and I guess to that point as well, I remember in dispatch once, someone was calling because there was like this rabid, like raccoon, I guess, or something. They're like, it's just flailing in our yard. Can you send someone? And I said, we actually don't do that. I said, it's not a domesticated animal. Animal control won't go out there to do that.
Right.
And they said, well, I saw on like Animal Police, or I forget what the show is called, like, you guys have someone that you can just send out. I was like, that's TV. Like, I don't know how to tell you, like, stay away from it, and I'll give you a phone number for you to call. I said, because there's nothing we can do. So it was like a wildlife wranglers or something. And people got upset.
Right.
Which, I mean, you don't know what you don't know, right?
Exactly.
And then when you have someone trying to explain to you something and you have maybe like a feeling or a threat to your family because of this animal or whatever it's doing,
indeed,
people just react. But it's up to us to remain calm, right, and figure that out. But also to your point, I love that, especially now in the past I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years, that a lot of dispatch centers are putting things out to the community on social media or different public events to, like you said, show them exactly what it's like so that it helps. And I think you're right. Maybe that is where a lot of the burnout comes, because it's just repeating a lot of things over and over and over and over, which is part of the job, right? Anyway, but it's those fundamentals on what you're supposed to do when you call 911.
Indeed.
So it's crazy, man. What a job, right?
Yes.
So you first start out, you go through training and everything. Now it's your turn to take phone calls. So before you get to the phone calls, though, how do they train on that piece? Like, do they have like a simulation or somebody else calling and pretending to do scenarios with you, or how did that part actually work?
So if I'm not mistaken, priority dispatch, they send someone out and we go through just talking.
Yeah.
Like nothing simulated. Now they actually do simulations a little bit here now. But when I started, no simulations. It was just talking out loud, kind of giving you the feel of what it will be like.
Yeah.
And
for myself, like I said, I was already jumped in. I was there first night, and I was already jumping in, and I was there.
You.
I know, right? It was. You learn quickly how to be kind of a wordsmith as things are going down. But
as you say that, I just think too. I think priority dispatch, they give us things to say. Where I know in your era, because I know like right before I got here, they were just turning over to like what to say. Where it's like you guys had no guidelines.
No.
Where like I had guidelines. So I think that does help. It helped me, I would say.
See, and that's good too, because so going from the small one-seat police department to the central dispatch in Southwest Michigan, when I got over there, that's when I got like my EMD certification, and we started working, through all of that. So there were the set of questions, except up until even I think, up until the point that I left, I think after I left dispatch in 2013, the center that I was at, they got the electronic version. So we had cards.
Oh.
Yeah, we had the cards, man. And that was crazy because, you're asking the main questions. And if someone says, I'm having difficulty breathing, well, immediately you go to you go to that card. It's easy peasy. But you have to flip, and as you've obviously seen in the electronic version, you just click or whatever, and it's right there. But I'm flipping through. I'm like, okay, and you have to read, verbatim of what it is. But then when you get to like a baby delivery, then that's even more crazy. Yeah, you're flipping to those cards, and you're going through each pane, and which is kind of a pain as well. But I mean, it's the job, right? So you're going through it.
For sure.
Yeah. So the phone calls. Now it's your turn to actually take these calls. You've gone through the training. You've gone through kind of the simulation or scenario-wise of talking back and forth and having some guidelines, like you were saying. Now the phone rings, and it's Jazmine's turn. What is that like for you? Just I was going to say, just seeing you and your vibe right now, it's like, I'm going back. I'm going back.
Yeah, definitely heart pounding, because it's one thing to practice, but I mean, like, people are calling on their worst days, right? So it's like, that was told to me, and it resonated with me. And I remember that every time I picked up the phone, like, this is somebody's worst day. Like, remembering that and not wanting to mess up, or feel like you're not sufficient, so.
Yeah.
Very scary, but I made it.
Yeah. Yes. Do you remember any of those earlier calls that you took?
It's funny that you said something about like, you kind of like just, I think I just cleared it out at the end of the day. I don't remember a lot. I do remember one of my calls early on was a little girl. She was at home by herself, and she thought someone was breaking in. And I just remember like, I thought my heart was pounding just from regular calls. Like, yeah, that was pretty, it turned out to be okay, which I'm so grateful. But I think that's like the only call that I really remember when I first began that kind of like made it real for me.
Oh man. Yeah. You just gave me goosebumps. Yeah. That, it happens like that. Right. And so one of the other questions was going to be one that sticks with you, but it kind of feels like that one definitely, kind of sticks with you. And maybe it's just, because of, it's a kid, right?
Right.
And you got all this stuff going on. And when you start thinking about what could or could not happen, your heart is just pounding. You're like, please, somebody get there.
Right.
Somebody get there fast as you can. And because all you can do is listen.
Right.
And
I think that's like, woo.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you feel helpless sometimes. And then I think a lot of times, and I don't know, you might agree with this or not, but I feel like a lot of times when we're taking these phone calls, if it doesn't go the way we're hoping that it goes, with a good outcome or whichever, sometimes we blame ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, that's one of the hardest things. We were talking about that yesterday in the class that I was teaching, that it just sucks sometimes that, and especially when you see stuff like in the news, and if you're the one who took that call, it's like you have no idea what was going on. You're just piecing things out and putting it out there, but you have no idea what was going on, or the fact that it bothers me or sticks with me that much.
Agreed.
So you go through the 4 years. You've got all of this experience and everything in dispatch, which feels like it kind of got into your blood as well. Like you really got into it.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely did. And then, I got a Lifesavers Award. So that was pretty cool.
That's amazing. What happened?
Yeah. So a lady called, her husband was not breathing, and she was freaking out. And I'm like, listen to me. like, let's do this. We got to do this. You got to focus. And I got to meet her and the family, him as well. And to be a part of that and to actually see them, it really hit home that like you are doing something. Because I think, the day-to-day, like you said, it's just like the constant, you do this every day. You do CPR every day. You do, you don't really think about, like, you don't hear what happens after, So to get that opportunity to meet them and for them to be so grateful, it was like amazing. I was like almost in tears. Like my parents were so proud of me as well. They're just like, wow, like you're really doing something amazing. And it's just like, wow, I am.
yeah, for real. Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you.
That is amazing. There's not a lot of people who get that chance to meet the folks that they help out, and you definitely got that.
Yeah.
And so that's amazing. Well done.
Thank you.
So then you end up switching from there to now being a systems analyst.
Yes.
So as we're going into the wrap up of this episode, if you can tell me, like, what does that entail? Like, what is that all about? What is that position?
So systems analyst, they changed it. It used to be CAD analyst. So anything with CAD, I try to find better options or corrections, troubleshooting, all of that. But they changed it to systems because it's not just CAD, it's, the internet computers or anything that plugs up TVs, whatever it is. I assist in troubleshooting and enhancing and figuring out what new technology is out there that can help us, to help the dispatchers, that relieves, stress off of them in the day-to-day activities or things that they have to do. So
nice.
Yeah.
So how excited are you for a lot more of the technology that's coming out that can help those that are answering the call?
Yeah, this may be shocking. I'm a little 50-50.
Yeah.
No, I love like, so now we have Carbine, and I love what they offer. I don't know if I could have said that, but anyway.
Oh, no, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we have Carbine, and I love what they have to offer. The fact that we are getting closer to what Google already kind of shows us when someone calls in to ping their location, to give us exact locations from their phone and not just towers anymore. Like that is incredible because, we're behind, and it's unfortunate because people call like, where I am. And it's just like, actually, I don't.
Yeah,
I know,
not really.
I know a region you're in.
Right.
So I think it's amazing in that aspect. Of course, now we have video capability and things like that, which can be a twofold thing. Like I said, I never wanted to see certain things.
Right.
And so from that aspect, of course, I do have control, which I appreciate. They gave us control we could just block it out and not be able to see it. But yet the responders do, which is amazing. So on the one hand, I'm like, you open it up and you see it and you might see something that you don't actually know that you're about this. You can't like prepare for that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
yeah.
If you send out that link, they open it up and things happen and things transpire over time. You're watching it at one point and then something else can happen in an instance, So that's the only thing I don't like about it. So I wouldn't even say 50-50. It's more like 90-10.
Yeah. No, you know what? I agree. I always say this, and I'll say it again. I am slightly jealous because of the new technology. Because man, when I was dispatching, like when I left in 2013, it was text to 911 was still being talked about. Like it was being implemented in some places, but for the location and stuff, no, I'd have to send out a fax to the cell phone carriers or something to try to ping them somewhere, or I would have to say, do you hear the sirens? Do you see the lights? Walk toward the light. Do that. But just hearing about like Carbine, Prepared, Rapid SOS, like all of that, that is just phenomenal. And but I do get what you're saying as well, with the fact that especially with video to 911, what you're going to be able to see, because that's a whole nother mental health, mental wellness piece that comes with it. And I think that just ends up being really the conversation between the company and the dispatch center on how they're going to do that. Like you said, you guys get the freedom to be able to have it blurred, right? And when it comes in, you can decide if you want to see it, or maybe even transfer it over to the supervisor, or however you want to do it. That is always cool to be able to have that. Now, some people have said, and I kind of feel this way a little bit as well, one of the things that we deal with, right, is closure. We don't always get that closure. But if you're able to see it, depending on what it is, right? You might get that closure in a sense, and it could help that way. But I think even with that, there's still a lot that needs to be done, right? To make sure that whatever visuals there are, whatever the person is feeling who took that call, to just keep up on it and just make sure they're okay. For sure. Because a lot of times, what do we do when someone says after a hard call, "Are you okay?" And people are like, "Yeah, sure, yeah, I'm fine. Kick rocks," like, "Yeah, I'm fine." But a lot of times, no, we're not. And sometimes it takes the "Are you sure you're okay?" for someone to think, "Okay, no, I'm not actually okay." Like, okay, we'll go, take a moment. So I'm with you. I'm with you with the technology piece. Like, I'm excited and I like hearing about it, but it's just, there's a lot that comes with it. And there could be more. So, and this has been fun. I've had so much fun having you on here and talking with you. As we go into the wrap up, I have the one last question that I mentioned to you earlier. So, in your 5 years, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself at the beginning of your dispatch career, what would you say to yourself? Like, what advice would you give yourself? And it's not to change anything, right? Because, a lot of times, whatever we go through, the experience that we have led us to who we are today. And sometimes some of those experiences make us that much stronger, or that much more wiser, or that experience can help others, whoever it might be who you're talking to. But if you could go back in time just to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you tell yourself?
That's a good question. The only thing that came to mind, which aligns with what you said, is God has a plan. Like, I really came in with the mindset of like, oh, this is just a job, and it turned into a career. So I think I was a little hard on myself at the beginning. And I think if I had told myself like, hey, there's a plan here, I think that would have been helpful. Yeah.
Like everything's going to be all right.
Yeah.
Just hang with it. I love it. No, that's good. I always ask people, because I guess a lot of times, we don't give ourselves the chance to kind of reflect on a lot of things. We're just always on the go, right? On the go, on the go, on the go. And a lot of times people will say, I wish I was at this point in my life, or I wish I was living my best life. And sometimes we don't take a chance to stop and reflect, because maybe we are living our best life, or whatever version of our best life, and we just don't see it. We just don't realize it. So I love that. Go back and say, hey, God has a plan. Like, things are going to work out. Everything's going to be all right. That is awesome. Thank you so much for being on. And this has been a lot of fun. For those who are listening right now, thank you all for tuning in. And if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us. And that is going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. But you can also go to links.co/WTT podcast. And that's links with 2 I's.co/WTT podcast. You'll find everything there. My email, you'll find the social media, where to follow. below where to purchase the latest book, Imagine Listening Volume 2. Volume 1 is going to be coming out later in December 2024. And to be a supporter, you can find all of that information there. And if you want to be a guest on the show as well, definitely go to links. Again, 2eyes.co/WTT podcast, and you can schedule an episode there. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital, a leader in next-gen core services. You can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live, and then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we will see you all in the next one.